Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dojo Live. Text uh, one more episode of our show in which we're going to be having a conversation with awesome and incredible tech luminaries. And hello, everyone. Welcome. In this case, hold on a second. Let me just did something here. Let me mute myself in the monitor. Our show in which we're going to be please bear with me. Conversation with. Where's that? Awesome. Where's that? What's going on? Oh, here. Sorry about that, Danielle. Okay, I had my monitor on. So anyway, once again, welcome to Dojo Live. We are going to be having a conversation with our guest today. He is Daniel. Let's see if I got this right. Daniel Maher. Maher, right? Did I get that right, Daniel?
That is close.
Okay, he's based out of Paris, by the way, and so that there's a big time difference here. So thank you for joining us and accommodating. Daniel is. Let's see, Daniel, you are the. You are developer advocate at Datadog, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm a developer advocate as part of the community team at Datadog.
Perfect, awesome. Thank you for joining us today, Danielle. Sorry. And okay, first of all, we're going to be talking about non-conventional career paths in tech, or as our guests put it, using your unique gifts and experiences to build an equally unique career path for yourself as an engineer. And he says that it's more common than you might think. So we're looking forward to this conversation. So, and also, of course, Laura, thank you for joining us, for being here with us today, as ever. We couldn't do this without you. So, Daniel, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about you and, of course, about Datadog.
Sure. So, as previously mentioned, I'm in developer advocate at Datadog. So, what is Datadog? It is a modern cloud-based, monitoring platform. Basically, it's got a whole bunch of interesting stuff. If you're into the geek, logging, metrics, synthetics, real user monitoring. The spiel goes on and on. Happy to engage on that a little later, but it's a pretty cool product, pretty cool platform. I like it quite a bit, and it's a good thing that I like it because it's basically my job to go out and get people excited about it and get people hype about it. So I've had a lot of fun over the past couple of years with the organization doing exactly that. Developer relations is a pretty cool sort of intersection of a lot of different things. There's some marketing, there's some engineering, there's some acting, there's some writing. So it really is an opportunity to combine a lot of different sort of experiences and skill sets together into one sort of focused discipline, which is really cool.
Yeah, I bet it is, and I thank you so much for elaborating on this, and also about Datadog. So, Daniel, you chose, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you chose the topic, right?
Yeah.
Non-conventional career paths in tech. So, first of all, I'd like to ask you, why did you choose this particular topic?
I chose the topic because it's my topic, right? It's a story I think that it's a story that I know, at least for me, it defines my career in a lot of ways. It's non-conventional, non-traditional, finding different avenues to get to where I need to be. And sort of the subtext there was that it's more common than people think. There's the conventional wisdom, sort of the received wisdom that in order to get a job in tech and in order to succeed and do well, you need to go through the traditional channels, a technical, high school, go to university, get a degree in computer science, work for some of the larger organizations and so on and so forth, and kind of just make that the straight arrow to success. And that has not been my journey. And in fact, it has not been the journey of a lot of people that I've had the pleasure and honor of working with over the years. But it's a story that doesn't seem to get told very often. And I would like the opportunity to just tell that story.
Please be our guest, literally be our guest. We'd love to hear about that. So, but before we continue, I would like to remind the audience, if you're watching, if you have any questions for Danielle, send them on Twitter, which is at Dojo Live, right? It's just right here on the screen, right here. And also, let's see, where else, Laura? Are we missing something here? Where can I send their questions?
No, I was just gonna ask Daniel to tell his story of his journey, his career path.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's start with that. Tell us the story, Daniel.
All right. So we've only got 30 minutes, so I'll keep it brief.
That'll be a tough one, but go ahead.
Yeah. So if you take a look at my bio, one of the things that I highlight on the bio is that I started my career as a day laborer, right? It had nothing to do with computers. And this was born out of necessity, right? I came from an economically disadvantaged background, and I needed to pay bills to keep a roof over the head. This is at 15 years old, right? And I was like, well, somebody's got to keep the electricity on. And I figured I like working with my hands. I like being outdoors. Is there some way I could get paid to do that, right? And it was such a simple decision. It's such a straightforward decision. The work was hard. You didn't get paid a lot to do it. I'm not glamorizing in any way, shape, or form, or romanticizing in any way, shape, or form that activity, that type of work. But it set me up with the sort of decision-making process where I would go, what do I like to do? What do I like doing? And can I get paid to do that? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. And sometimes the answer is yes, but not very much. And sometimes the answer is yes, but it's going to suck, right? And you have to make decisions there. And I've tried over the years to sort of let that be my guiding principle is, can I do something that I'm at least going to enjoy, that I'm going to feel some pride in doing, and is it going to give me enough money to live? And that was sort of the start of it all, right? From there, just sort of progressing onto a myriad of different activities. Happy to go into that if you like further, of course.
Yeah, whichever you think is relevant, because one of the things that I would personally love to hear is what you mentioned in your tagline. You are encouraging the audience and the viewers to use their unique gifts and experiences.
Yeah.
To build a unique career path. So in that sense, Daniel, what would you say that you probably realized something about yourself? So what were your unique gifts?
Well, I'd say one of my unique gifts was probably, the ability to work in sub-zero temperatures for long periods of time. I grew up in Canada, so that helps, right? Luckily, I don't have to do that too much anymore, although it was entirely relevant when I was, slinging cables for telecoms in, northern Canada, right? So identify things that you're capable of doing that maybe not everybody is capable of doing, and use that to your benefit. Another thing that I realized that I could do, for example, was I could carry a tune, I can do impressions. I've got a relatively good, they call it a radio voice. It's measured and so forth. And I thought, is there something I could do with that? And tried doing some acting for a while. That was disastrous. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, it didn't work out. But stage acting and acting for television and whatnot, it was awful. That's a hard grind. I would rather do manual labor than that. But voice acting actually kind of took off, and I ended up doing some voiceovers for commercials and voiceovers for some video games over the years, and built up a portfolio there. And that's sort of one of those other unique gifts as well, right? People are like, oh yeah, well, like, great, you've got a good speaking voice. What is that going to do for you in the world of computers? As I mentioned, talking about developer relations, I end up spending a lot of time on stage now, and it's good to be able to connect with an audience, to speak with an audience, right? And you think, okay, well, if I'm in tech, I don't want to speak on a stage. Like that's not interesting to me. And I go, well, that might be, but if you want to advance your career in technology and want to go beyond just being a workaday programmer or a workaday network administrator, for example, one of the things you have to learn is how to mentor people and how to guide people and how to help people. And a big part of that is how to speak and communicate with people, right? Having those strong communication skills, the ability to connect with people emotionally as well as intellectually, that's a huge part of advancing your career in the tech space.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for sharing that story, Manuel. So let's see, Laura, do you have any questions? I mean, I got my own, but I'd like to pass on the mic to you. Do you have any questions for Daniel right now?
Yeah, I just have one question. What would you advise others on planning their career path from your own experience?
I would say it's important to plan, but it's important to be willing to throw out that plan, right? Having a dogmatic approach to one's career path, I think as a technical person can seem logical, right? Because we like A, then B, then C. But life is rarely A, then B, then C. So definitely take a look at what you want to do, take a look at where you want to go, and then be willing to accept that that's not what's going to happen. That would be my big piece of advice there.
No, you're muted, Carlos. I think it's the American Sign Language part.
Yeah, it all happens to me, Daniel. Bear with me, please. Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, thank you for that, Daniel. I would personally like to ask you one thing that it's kind of, I think it's a little bit intriguing in my end, and because let me go back. Dojo Life's sponsor, Microsoft. Right now, it's at an expansion stage. So we're kind of multinational, multicultural corporation with hundreds and hundreds of people, and so there's a lot of there are a lot of differences across borders and across nationalities and across geographies. So in that context, would you say that if I have a unique gift, that with which I can make my career path equally unique? Can I make it work regardless of where I happen to be, especially in the tech world? So what are there any limitations to that? Any geographic, cultural, language, whatever, depending where you are? What would you respond to that?
I would say that this is one of the great paradoxes of working in tech, especially in the modern age, is there's this promise that technology is going to destroy borders, that technology is going to break down all the barriers, that we're all just going to work as one unified entity. And I don't think that's actually played out for a variety of reasons.
Right.
So code is code. One can write code anywhere. From Mexico City, from Manila, it doesn't matter, right? But one cannot necessarily be equally employed or have the same opportunities for employment or have the same opportunities for advancement or the same opportunities for regular electricity and running water wherever you are around the world. Mm-hmm. So yeah, anyone can code, but in reality, not everyone is going to have that opportunity, right? So I think we in tech, frankly, have not only a financial obligation to go out and find the best people, regardless of where they are, but also a moral obligation to help people who are going to be able to contribute. And I'm kind of flipping that around. You say, what is the unique skill set? What can I bring to the table? Well, maybe it's not necessarily about what you can bring to yourself, but it's what you can bring to others. Right.
I see. Definitely. So that kind of leads me to the next question that I have for you, which is, well, by means of this conversation, we're encouraging our viewers to focus on their unique gifts, talents, to create a unique career path, mm-hmm. and to contribute in one way or another. So in that sense, can you walk us through your own experience at Datadog, for example? How have you been able to use your unique gifts at your current place of employment?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that we strongly encourage at Datadog is for our engineers and really for anybody to get out there and build their personal brand, to get out there and be on podcasts, on speaking engagements such as this, get on stage, write a book, write blog posts, anything they can do to sort of put themselves out there. There's a part of that which is just part of our own sort of marketing machine. But there's another part of that too, which is that it really helps the individuals to grow as people, just personally as well as professionally. And that's a big part of what I was brought on at Datadog to do, and have been helping to build out internally. So when we talk about sort of those personal gifts, really we're talking about those personal experiences, right? And I mentioned, everything from being a day laborer to a voice actor. I was in the military for a while, semi-professional mixed martial artist. I've done a lot of these things, and part of that is trying to find ways to connect with people and go, hey, look, like, you're more than just the code you've produced. You're more than just the infrastructure you've deployed. You're a complete human being, and a part of discovering those unique gifts is sort of coming to terms with what it means to be a complete human being, to be more than just the sum of what you're paid to do. And that's a big part of what I try to do at Datadog, is to help people understand that. It's surprisingly difficult, especially I've found for technical people.
Thank you, Daniel, again. Laura, you got another one, right?
Yeah. Well, you are talking about unique gifts, right? And how can we use them to grow in our career path?
Mm-hmm.
So, but what about if I don't know what my unique gifts are? How can I discover them? How can I know, what, I'm good at this or I'm good at that, and I can use it for developing my career path?
Sure. It's an excellent question. It builds exactly on what I was saying. And a lot of that just kind of comes out through conversation. It kind of comes out through, let's not talk about computer for a little while. Let's just talk about some other things. Let's learn about each other. Let's find out, what we've done, which is the same, which is different, just getting to know somebody, right? Everybody has things inside of them. Some of them are going to be obvious, right? I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm really into knitting. I knit competitively. Okay, cool, right? Like, how can we develop that? And some other things are not going to be as obvious. Some of them are just going to be a feeling inside, like, I feel like I have something I want to say, and I'll be like, yes, let's develop that. Let's we don't necessarily talk directly at that, but let's talk around that and nurture that as we build a relationship out, and then sort of to tease these things out. And a lot of this is basically, mentoring. It's building those trusted relationships with people. And that's a really good way to discover the gifts that you have inside of you, is to find somebody that you can trust to help you bring those out.
Okay.
Daniel, what if someone discovers a unique gift, but he or she realizes that particular unique gift is really not something that they could actually implement in their current context, in their current professional context. So how to react to that? Just to give you an example, let's suppose that, I don't know, I might discover that I'm good at copywriting, just as an example. But for some reason, there's no way, that I can use my gift in my current context, or that the company might not be even open or interested in my unique gift.
Sure.
So what do you think the next step should be regarding that particular discovery?
Yeah, that's fine. So there's two quick answers there. The first one is, let's talk about copywriting for a second. If you are a technical person that's paid to do technical things, but you're also good at copy editing and copywriting, and you're not using that, you are cheating yourself out of enormous sums of money. Because if you're a technical person who can also write documentation, who can also audit code, are you kidding me? That's incredible. Definitely leverage that, right? But to speak to a more general case, if you've got this thing that you want to do, and you've got this feeling inside of you, and you want to bring that out, the atomic answer there is find something else to do, right? We talked about having your career path, nothing A, then B, then C. Maybe accept that, no, this path that I thought was going to be mine, it's not, and I need to forge something new. But again, that's sort of the atomic option. That's like the big bang, right? It's not necessarily going to be safe or even possible for everyone. That's when surrounding yourself with the right people is going to help. And I don't just mean having, friends and family to support you, but I'm literally the place where you work. Your employer has a responsibility to ensure that you are happy and productive, right? And if your employer doesn't feel that way, that might not be a problem you can fix. You're on mute again there, sir.
Yeah.
I told you, it always happens to me. If that happens, would you say that it's simply, the best route would be to simply start looking, or try to talk someone else into buying what you actually discovered? So
Yeah.
Is it worth the effort?
It's hard to give a general answer to that, right? Because every case is going to be different. Mm-hmm. You're going to be different. Your state of affairs is going to be different. Your economic situation is going to be different. This is an area where I think a lot of people will speak to privilege, right? They'll go, "Oh yeah, I mean, if you want to do X, Y, and Z, and your bosses want you to do that, quit your job, go do X, Y, Z." Well, that's great if you can. That's great if you've got some sort of state insurance, or you've got savings and you can just go off and have that adventure. But most people can't. So you have to look at your situation and you have to go, what actually plays out here, right? Am I in a position where I can conceivably make that sort of huge decision? If the answer is no, then your only possible route there is to work within the system. And talk to your people around you, right? Talk to your manager, talk to your skip level. If your organization is big enough, it may have literally people who are responsible for professional development, right? And those people are their job is to help you develop professionally. So there are a lot of options without necessarily, exploding everything and quitting your job, right?
Right. Yeah, as you say, very few people. I mean, not a lot of people can simply just call it quits, and I think it would be irresponsible at least for me. But anyway, Laura, go ahead.
Yeah. So going back a little on what you said, as employers, how can I help people, or as an employer, how could I help you to develop your career path? I mean, yeah, supporting your own training and something, but what would your advice be for employers to help their people to grow?
So I would say step number one is very simple to say, but very complex to put into place, and that is to care. Mm-hmm. Right? And I know it sounds so silly. You're like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I care about my employees? Everybody's got the horror stories, right? Of employers that don't seem to care or really don't. That's the first step, is to actually understand that the people that are in your environment that you're paying to work, right? They are also complete human beings, right? It's not just about yourself understanding you're human beings, but me as the employer, I have to understand that as well. And that by encouraging people to work from places of self-interest, encouraging people to work from their strengths and their skill sets and their desires and their passions where possible, is going to make them happier, right? Which is going to help with retention. It's going to make them more productive, which is going to help with efficiency and productivity. And all these things ultimately are going to impact the bottom line. There are no disadvantages at all as an employer for seeing your employees as complete human beings and giving them the means to develop themselves. There are no downsides.
Yeah, as well, in that context, I think we're lucky, because that's what our sponsor, Nearself, is about. It's we don't call our collaborators or teammates as many other technology companies do, like here resources or code monkeys or that kind of thing. It's about people. If you have a caring company that cares about its teammates as human beings, as people, and you have that from the top down, man, you're in good hands as far as the company is concerned, right? So, in that sense, Nearsoft is a great company in that regard. So I guess we're lucky, right, Laura?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that.
I'm sorry.
He's happy to hear that.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's like okay, Daniel, we're coming up on time, so I guess that the final part would be to simply for wrapping up purposes. What would be your 3-4 key points that you would like to leave our audience with?
I should have prepared a statement.
Well, maybe, let's call them words of wisdom, if you will. However you want to phrase them. Let me rephrase that, and let me ask you: we're about to wrap up. What would you like to leave our audience with from something coming from the heartfelt from you?
I could be saying something sappy like "believe in yourself," right? It's trite, and it's not enough. I would say, honestly, again, the most important thing is to see yourself as a complete human being, and to surround yourself with people who feel the same and see the same. And if that's not the environment you're in, then you need to make a decision to either work to change that environment or work to change that environment, right? And then the sort of the corollary to that is what is a complete human being, right? And that is not just the sum of where you're from, who your parents are, where you lived, where you grew up, right? It's not the sum of particular practices. It's not your experiences, right? It's all of that put together and then some. And seeing and really understanding that and encapsulating that wholly is the only way that you're going to truly understand what's going to make you happy. And that's not just your professional life, that's in life in general.
Absolutely, we hear you. So, well, Daniel, I guess that's it for today. But before we go, I'm going to encourage you to stick around for a minute because I'd like to make a quick announcement, and this is about next week, folks. Next week, right here on Dojo Live at 1 p.m. Pacific, U.S. Pacific, we are going to be speaking with Robin Kriegelstein. He's a behavioral science and behavioral economics consultant at a company called Neuron Labs. And we're going to be speaking about designing for the predictably irrational user, whatever that means, right? So, yeah, because we have really, really cool, very niche-focused topics that are also deep in nature, I would say, from my standpoint as a non-engineer. Anyway, so that's for next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, designing for the predictably irrational user. So with that being said, the only thing left for me to do, Daniel, is thank you big time for having been with us today. And also, of course, my fellow teammate, Nearsoftian co-host, Laura Fimbres, in our Hermosillo office. So thank you, Laura. Thank you, Daniel. Guys, see you next time. See you next week. Stay tuned.
Thank you. Bye.